I want to talk about director penalty notices, which have been described as draconian by a number of courts. At the ATO, I saw many unfortunate cases, including spouses who were directed to sign documents by their partners and subsequently became personally liable for all of the company's tax debts, and new directors who were appointed following the death of a sole director and also became liable for all of the company's unpaid historical tax liabilities. Director penalty liabilities arise when company directors fail to meet their obligations to ensure that the company lodges and pays its tax on time. Company directors can be made personally liable for certain debts, such as pay-as-you-go withholding, superannuation guarantee charge, and now the GST. A director penalty notice, or DPN, sets out the company's unpaid tax liabilities, sets out the amount of penalty that you may be liable to pay, and also sets out the steps for compliance that must be taken within 21 days. DPNs are one of the most common actions taken by the ATO to recover tax liabilities. As Nigel mentioned in our previous COVID-19 series, the deferral arrangements offered by the ATO during the COVID pandemic should not be seen as an exemption for the obligations underlying DPNs. So what should you do if you want to avoid receiving a director penalty notice? Or what should you do if you do receive one? Don't treat the DPN as a standard letter. The DPN is a critical document, and until the ATO issues one to you, they legally cannot commence legal proceedings to recover the director penalty liability against you. The easiest way for you to remit a director penalty liability is to comply with the DPN within 21 days. That is, unless you've received a lockdown DPN, which occurs when you haven't caused the company to lodge its business activity statements by the due date or within 3 months, or you haven't caused the company to lodge its superannuation guarantee statement by the due date. In those circumstances, the usual methods to remit the director penalty liability, which can include appointing an administrator or appointing a small business restructuring practitioner or causing the company to be wound up, are not available. And the only way for you to avoid the director penalty liability is to pay the debt. Be aware that you can raise a defence to the Commissioner outside of legal proceedings. In circumstances where the Commissioner has recovered part of a director penalty liability against you, either through the use of a garnishee notice or through intercepting credits on your income tax return, you may be able to apply to the Commissioner within 60 days to argue that a defence applies to you. And if the Commissioner agrees, then the amount recovered from you outside of legal proceedings will be refunded to you. However, be aware of raising COVID-19 as a defence, as it is unclear as to how the courts will treat the circumstances regarding the pandemic in considering any defences to your director penalty liabilities. There is no solace for sleeping directors. In some cases, key investors or employees will take a directorship over a company to secure their investment or their role in the company, and they take no part in the management of the company and rely upon another director to do so. These are called sleeping directors. Please be aware, the law makes no distinction between active directors and sleeping directors for the purpose of director penalty liabilities. New directors are not excluded. Be aware that if you are a newly appointed director of the company and remain a director for 30 days, that you can become personally liable for all of the company's unpaid tax liabilities, even before your appointment. The ATO takes a strict view on this and is of the view that if you do become a new director, you then have 30 days to cause the company to either pay the unpaid tax liability, to appoint an administrator or small business restructuring practitioner, or to cause a company to be wound up. To get immediate clarity on the tax situation facing you or your business, contact Aptum.